On Saturday, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis held a campaign event in Polk City, Florida. DeSantis spoke about crime, the southern border, and the fentanyl crisis, which have been hot-button issues for Republicans ahead of the upcoming election. The governor hammered President Joe Biden over the southern border, calling on Republicans to take action on the border should they take back the majority in November. DeSantis also said, quote, "They should not give one red cent to Ukraine while that border is open." This sentiment echoes certain comments by Republican leader Kevin McCarthy about waning GOP support for continued funding to Ukraine.
And then I got the legislature to do legislation to make sure that people who are engaging in rioting or looting or mob violence, don't get treated like they do in Portland, where they just slap you on the wrist and let you do it again day after day. That's unacceptable. So in Florida, if you're engaged in that type of activity, rioting, looting, you're not getting a slap on the wrist. You're getting the inside of a jail cell. We're holding you accountable. And we also signed legislation saying that local governments in the state of Florida are not permitted to defund the police. We're just not going to go down that route. I'm sorry. We're going to put the money back in. And we've also been able to do stuff to hold people trafficking fentanyl accountable. We increased penalties, not just for fentanyl, but these fentanyl analogs, which are just as dangerous. And my view on that is, this is killing people at record numbers in communities all across our country, including in the state of Florida. And if you're dealing in fentanyl, you are killing our people, and you are going to jail for the rest of your life. Of course, our problem with fentanyl would probably be much more manageable if we didn't have an open southern border. And that is what this president did from the day he came into office. We've now had millions and millions of people illegally cross the southern border. Just in the most recent fiscal year, more than 90 people on the various terrorist watch lists were interdicted coming across the southern border. That doesn't count the people who are gotaways who they didn't get. So you see a massive number of suspected terrorists coming in. You see criminal aliens coming in. You see, of course, the fentanyl coming in. And, the thing that bugs me about it is, these elites in our country, they don't care that the cartels are eating our lunch, making billions and billions of dollars on these operations. They don't care that fentanyl is ravaging communities all throughout the country, as well as methamphetamine coming across the southern border. They don't care about that. They don't care about criminal aliens that are coming in and victimizing Americans. We had Biden flies people in the middle of the night in Jacksonville, doesn't tell anyone. One of the people he flew in on one of these 2 a.m. flights committed a murder in Northeast Florida. We just had a sheriff's deputy in Pinellas County killed by a twice-deported illegal alien who crossed the border illegally again 6 months ago and came into our country. So they don't care about any of that. They only care if you take illegal aliens and send to D.C. or New York or Martha's Vineyard. That's the only time they care. But you know what? People said, because they have buses going, planes, all this stuff. Now what's happened? Well, now you have reinstitution, at least for some, of Remain in Mexico. They had to reinstitute part of that. They didn't want to do that. They're not doing it. So you got to keep the pressure on. We got to make sure that we're keeping feet to the fire. But I'll tell you this, if Republicans take control of Congress, which I think they will, they need to do something about this border. I'm sick of the talk. I'm sick of putting out, whatever statements you're putting out, some of these people in Congress, and some of them are friends of mine, but, the time for talking is over. In Florida, we don't talk, we act. In fact, we speak very softly. People say, oh, why aren't you tweeting more? Why aren't you doing that? Look, I'm not a political commentator. I'm a leader, okay? And so I don't need to be doing stream of consciousness on the internet. I don't need to constantly be doing that. But what I do is we act when the moment's right, and we make sure to deliver on our promises. And so they are all running campaigns now complaining about the southern border, as you know, as well they should. You better be willing to do something about it. You better be willing to spend some political capital about it. You better be willing to have the media attack you about it. I have that in Florida all the time. Every time I roll out of bed, the media has a spasm. You can't let these folks cow you into not doing what's right. So I want to see people like Mayorkas held accountable. I want to see them. They should not give one red cent to Ukraine while that border is open. Hold the line. So we'll see what happens, but I think this is a moment of choosing, because there's a lot of Republicans that get very frustrated with some of the Republicans that get elected with big promises and very, very meager results.